Respected elders, dearest brothers and sisters, Jai Sai Ram. I offer my humble and most loving pranams at the lotus feet of our dear beloved Lord, Bhagawan Sri Sathya Sai Baba. Welcome to the next installment of Sai Karuna Talks. I am humbled and privileged to be able to welcome our guest speaker for today, Dr. Mahesh Narayan. He is a very familiar face in the UK with a very cheeky yet infectious smile. Born into a Sai family, son-in-law of Professor Narendra, who was the first principal at the Vrindavan campus of Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning. By profession, he is an ENT surgeon. He has been visiting doctor at Swami's hospitals in Puttaparthi and Vrindavan for many years. He was also a Sathya Sai coordinator at Glasgow Centre. He was also the former president of Region 6. He has also been involved with SSE in the UK for almost 30 years, starting from Scotland to many parts of the UK. Welcome, Dr. Narayan.
Om Shri Sai Ram. My loving, humble salutations at the lotus feet of our beloved, loving God. Respected elders, brothers and sisters, the very first verse of the Ramayana in Tamil, the Kamba Ramayanam, talks about the dilemma of a cat. The cat that faces the ocean of milk and it wants to lick every last drop of that ocean and consume it. Like that, Kamban the poet says, here I am at the beginning of the narration of the story of the Lord Rama, who is the incarnation of Vishnu. I would like to narrate every single incident and episode in his life. I think a lot of us are in a similar situation when we are asked about Swami. We don't know where to start and what to talk about. Well, Swami helps us and guides us. And on one such occasion, I was asked to speak, impromptu, of course, at a Balvikas get-together for the teachers, parents, and students. And at the end of it, there was a question-answer session, and a very bright 8-year-old lad put his hand up. And he asked me, why do you say that Sai Baba is God? A very wonderful question. If you come to think of it, a lot of people refer to Swami as a teacher. Some people refer to him as a holy man. Some people say he's our guru. I mean, there are different things different people will say. And so he wanted to know why I said he was God. And Swami always provides you with the answers as well. I prayed, and the answer that came forth was my understanding of the word God is of somebody who is omniscient, who knows everything, who is omnipotent, who can do everything. There's nothing impossible for him, and who is also omnipresent, who is everywhere. Above all these qualities, he is also compassionate and loving. So I'd like to go on this vein in today's talk. Talking about Swami as the omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent, loving and compassionate God. I'll be telling you a few stories, and as Brother Mahendra has kindly introduced me as somebody who has been involved with SSC or Balvikas, as Swami called it, for much of my life, I'll be narrating a lot of stories, and God help you, because I don't stop once I start. if you knew. I'll start off with the story about two old ladies. Can you see that?
Not yet.
Yeah?
Not yet.
Not yet, oh God. I thought I put share. Yeah. So the people in this picture, first of all, we know Swami, all of us recognize Swami. On either side of Swami are my wife's grandparents. This is Mrs. Padma Damodar Rao. She was the first person in the family to have come to Swami in 1952. She started visiting Puttaparthi with an elderly aunt of hers. That is Mrs. Leela Sundar Rao. That is Vidyu's maternal grandmother. This is Dr. Sundar Rao, who was a professor of ophthalmology and superintendent of the Boring Hospital in Bangalore. And this is Damodar Rao. He was a retired judge. Now, though I said Padma Ji, that is grandmother Padma Damodar Rao, came to Swami in 1952, Swami had come to the family home much before that. Swami actually visited their family home, Sasivilas, in Mylapore, on the 1st of September 1943. That was one of the earliest visits of Swamis to Madras. As you can imagine, 1943, Swami himself must have been 16 years old. And Swami came for a special occasion. He came to inaugurate the All India Sai Samaj, which was an association of Shirdi Sai devotees. And that built the huge Mylapore Shirdi temple, which was consecrated in 1952. But from the 1st of September 43 till 1949, the temple was conducted and all services were conducted in that family home. I remember my father-in-law, late father-in-law, mentioning that he was an 8th standard student at that time. And there was a big crowd in the house, in the family home. And his friends, whom he was hanging out with, said, "What is the commotion going on in your house?" And his reply to that was, "Some Sai Baba has come." Little did he know that the some Sai Baba is going to come and take over his, not just his life, but the lives of his parents and future generations. So his mother was the first lady in the family to go to Puttaparthi. That didn't mean the rest of the family came to Swami at the same time, because in 1958, Mr. Damodar Rao, that is the judge, he was presiding over a meeting in Madras, in the YMIA, Mylapore, Madras. This is in March 1958, and that discourse of where Swami was giving the discourse. That discourse is there in the Sathya Sai Speaks Volume 1. It is the 8th discourse. Now, again, he was not a devotee at that point of time. His comment at that time was, he was wondering, when is this man going to finish his talk and when am I going to go home? So he again wasn't a devotee. But then circumstances occurred where there was an illness in the family. Their oldest grandchild became very sick and there was no remedy for it in modern medicine. That's when they searched for other answers, alternate answers. And then Dr. Sundar Rao and Leela Sundar Rao, that is with his maternal grandparents, went and saw Swami at Dr. Padmanabhan's house in Bangalore. That is Mrs. Geeta Mohan Ram's father's house. That's where they saw Swami for the first time. That is the maternal grandparents. And then the whole family got into Swami's fold. Now, the first story I was going to narrate was about these two ladies. The two ladies wanted to, as I said, the olden devotees, as you all know, they used to ask Swami everything. If they had to take any decision, even in worldly decision, they would say, oh, we need to ask Swami first. And so it was like almost like, Swami is the family elder. You have to get his permission for everything, or he will tell us what to do, this or that. And they were a bit spoilt because they had that kind of access to Swami. And Swami also humored them till the very end, I noticed. So this grandmother, Padma ji, wanted to ask Swami something. She set out from Madras. She went to Bangalore. And along with the other grandmother, she wanted to make a trip to Puttaparthi, where Swami was. And as you know, it wasn't very safe. It was a long journey in those days. We are talking, this is in the 60s. It was still quite an arduous journey. It's not like you just go get into a taxi and go. And two ladies did not travel alone. So they needed somebody to come along with them on the journey. And since all the men folk were busy, they asked the gardener whether he would come along to accompany them to Puttaparthi. The gardener was delighted. He obviously loved Swami dearly. He was delighted and he wanted to go to see Swami in his Sunday best. So, you know how in this place we would be wearing our good clothes. Now, the poor people can't afford that in India, or certainly couldn't in those days. So the easiest way out was to go to your dhobi, that is the washerman. You give him a bit of money, and the washerman will loan you somebody else's clothes. And then, so this gardener goes along to the dhobi, gets himself a nice waistcoat to wear when he goes to have darshan of Swamis. Gives, I'm told, 2 rupees to the washerman. And he comes back home with the waistcoat to be worn on his trip to Puttaparthi. In the meantime, what happened, Vidyu's younger uncle, the younger mama, had come back from college. And he said college was closed for some reason. He was willing to come along to Puttaparthi with these 2 ladies. So they didn't wait for the poor gardener. They set out to Puttaparthi, took the car and went to Prasanthi Nilayam. And when they reached Prasanthi Nilayam, Swami very graciously came up to them and spoke to them and gave them the answer for the questions that grandmother had. It was still daylight, and so they decided they could travel back straight away rather than stay overnight. So they left. Professor Kasturi has narrated the story, and I have an old video recording of Professor Kasturi narrating the story. As soon as they left back for Bangalore, Swami called Professor Kasturi and said, "Hey Kasturi, where is Sundar Rao's party?" That is Vidyu's maternal grandfather. "Where is Sundar Rao's party?" So Professor Kasturi came running back to ask, Sundar Rao's party, Sundar Rao's party. By then, these 2 ladies and the mama had left for Bangalore. So Professor Kasturi did the next thing that he could do. He sent a telegram to Dr. Sundar Rao's house saying, "Come back immediately. Swami wants you back." These 2 ladies and the uncle reach home and they find the telegram waiting for them saying, "Swami wants you back." So what do they do now? The maternal uncle who had traveled along with them was not free the next day to miss college. So he could not accompany them. This time around, they had to take the gardener. And they reached Puttaparthi along with the gardener. Swami came straight to the gardener, gave him Pada Namaskar, materialized Vibhuti and gave it to him, blessed him. Then Swami went to the ladies' side, told the grandmothers, "Now you can go back." That is how compassionate our Lord is. He's walking around knowing the level of devotion and the pain in each one's and everyone's heart, because that's where he lives. And he must have felt the disappointment that poor gardener had had. That is our compassionate Lord. I'll narrate another story. I told you our Lord is omnipotent. He is able to do anything. There is nothing beyond him. And this again is a story that involves the grandfather. This is the judge, Damodar Rao. Now, when Swami started the Sri Sathya Sai Service Organization in the 60s, in the late 60s, he appointed Mr. Damodar Rao as the first state president of Tamil Nadu. And Dr. Sundar Rao was appointed as the first state president for Karnataka. These two gentlemen held their posts for 2 terms each, that is for 10 years each. Subsequently, they retired and lived in Prasanthi Nilayam on Swami's command. Their wives were appointed as the Mahila Vibhag chairpersons. In those days, the organization had a wing for the ladies who were actually the main, forerunners and teachers, first teachers of SSC, because that was a duty that the Mahila Vibhag performed. People like Mahendra Bhai and myself, who became SSC teachers, us men came in later. And Swami has given clear guidelines that we should be teaching older children. That younger children should be taught by ladies because of the maternal instinct. And so these 2 ladies were doing Bal Vikas. The grandfathers were both state presidents. Now, the story is you might have heard the story, read about it, but it is about a man called Walter Coven. Those of you who are familiar with Brindavan, the ashram and the institute, know that the hostel, the boys' hostel block, is named after the same gentleman and his wife, Walter and Elsie Coven block. They are an old couple that lived in California in those days, ardent devotees of Swami's. So we come to December 1971. Swami had come on a visit to Madras. Those days, Swami used to visit Madras quite frequently, even 3 times a year. Swami had come, and Swami was addressing the Sevadal volunteers in what is called the Etiraj Kalyana Mandapam. It is still there, that Mandapam is still there. It is in Alvarpet. Swami, whilst he was addressing them, he indicated to Vidyu's grandfather, who was that time Mr. Damodar Rao, who was that time the state president, to get his car ready, that is Tata's car ready. Swami, though Swami had a nice car, Swami liked to seem to somehow like to go about in grandfather's old rickety bolts and nuts car. So Tata immediately set about getting the car ready. He also indicated to a Sevadal gentleman who was a very good, hardworking Sevadal gentleman, I'll say something subsequently, who to follow them. So that gentleman got onto his Lambretta with somebody else, a Lambretta scooter. Swami finished the discourse. Swami got into the car and along with grandfather started going. And Swami would not say where to go. He'd not say, go to such and such a place. Swami started giving directions. This is typical, the Lord knows his way around everywhere. So because he is everywhere. So he starts giving directions saying, go straight, turn left, turn right. And they ended up in a private hospital. Those are called nursing homes in India. The smaller private hospitals are called nursing homes, called the Willingdon Nursing Home. It's a beautiful Art Deco building. Unfortunately, they've demolished it in 2012. Swami gets down from the car. All these people sort of walking behind Swami. The place was run by a Dr. H. Krishna Rao, a great surgeon in those days. And there are 2 sweeping staircases. So Swami just goes up one of those staircases, very fast, walks into this room where Elsie Cowan, that is Walter's wife, was sitting and weeping. So Swami walks in and says, "Where is Walter?" So she said, "Swami, he has died." Swami said, "Where is Walter?" She said, "Swami, they have taken the body to the mortuary." Swami says, "Ask them to bring the body back." So the Lord commands, it happens. So the body is brought back to Swami. And as you probably know, this may sound a bit morbid, but in India, when somebody dies, in the body, they stuff cotton wool in the nose and in the ears and things like that. Swami, the body was brought to Swami. Swami pulled off the shroud, pulled out the cotton wool from both nostrils, from his ears, patted him on the shoulder and said, "Walter, get up." And Walter got up. As I said, this Lord can do anything. He sometimes doesn't let us see that because of his Maya. We get deluded into realizing that here is our God who can do everything. And we forget because we are the ones who doubt. Samshaya Atma Vinashyati, as the Bhagavad Gita says. We are the ones who doubt. Doubting Thomas. Swami once said, there was one Thomas who was doubting in those days. Now all of you are doubting Thomases. So here we are. Swami brings this gentleman back to life. Now I said there's another story, prequel to my story. I must tell you this. Tata and I were very close, and I had the privilege of sitting and chatting with him at length because he was the most amazing raconteur. He would narrate stories so beautifully you felt you were there. But this was one story I never asked him about. Funnily enough, I used to ask him so many stories, and I remember such wonderful stories and descriptions about Swami, about other incidents and things like that. But I'd never once asked him about the Walter Cowan story. And a couple of years ago, in 2018, I had gone for my hospital seva in the Puttaparthi General Hospital. I worked there usually in the holidays. Here, I take leave and go and work there in the ENT department there. And one evening after working, I'd gone for bhajan, and there was a bhajan that was mentioning Subbamma. You know Karnam Subbamma, that is the lady, great soul, who was like Yashoda was to Krishna, she was to our Swami. And Karnam Subbamma was mentioned in that song. Suddenly my train of thought was Swami brought her back to life. And it was, isn't that such a beautiful story? Because I've heard Swami narrate that story. And there are lovely audio versions that Radio Sai play. Now, here's the story. I know Walter Cowan was also brought back to life. Unfortunately, I did not ask Tata for an eyewitness account. I really missed out on that because Tata had narrated it with all these details. I was quite disappointed that night. I was not very happy. Next morning, I was going to work in the hospital. My clinic starts at 8 in the morning. So prior to that, I would go to the mandir and do a little namaskar and, pray to Swami and then go to the hospital. So as I was going into the mandir, one of my fellow doctors, another visiting doctor, called me. And to this gentleman, I did not know who he was. I did not know his name. He said, "Come here, Mahesh." And I went to him and said, "Yes, sir." So he said, "Mahesh," and he introduced me. He is so-and-so's nephew about me. And he mentioned my uncle. So this gentleman very sweetly said, "Oh, your aunt was my teacher, was my professor of pharmacology." So I again did not know this gentleman's name. So then this Dr. Lakshmi Narayana, who introduced us, he said, "Oh, this is Mr. Ramani. Mr. Ramani is currently the All India Vice President of the Sri Sathya Sai organization. And I think a couple of years ago, his son came and spoke at our national birthday celebrations in UK, a phenomenal speaker. He is the man who did the music recording for The Life of Pi and got the Oscar as well. You all would be familiar with him. So Mr. Ramani is a very humble, unassuming gentleman. He is the All India president of the Sathya Sai organization. A vice president, All India vice president. And so when I realized it was Mr. Ramani, I just said to him, sir, I think you know my wife's family even better than you know my family. And he said, who is that? And I mentioned Mr. Damodar Rao. Then his face lit up. And I did not ask him anything. I promise you, I did not even say anything about Walter Cowan or anything. On his own, he started the story. He said, you know, in 1971, I was a Seva Dal volunteer. And Mr. Damodar Rao used to be the state president of Tamil Nadu. He was very fond of me. And then he started giving me all these details. Swami was addressing the Seva Dal volunteers at Ithiraj Kalyana Mandapam. And he asked Damodar Rao to get his car ready. And Damodar Rao told me. So it was Mr. Ramani who was the Seva Dal gentleman who got onto the Lambretta and went. And Mr. Ramani describes the series of events in great detail, such beauty and clarity. And then he finally ends it by saying, and you know, I'm one of the last living eyewitnesses of that incident. And that is precisely what I had asked Swami the day before, saying, Swami, I missed out on an opportunity of getting an eyewitness account of that incident. Swami has not gone anywhere. Swami is here. Swami is with each and every one of us. He is within us. He is listening to every conversation. He is listening to every stray thought even. My next story will be about something related to Bal Vikas. And to illustrate this particular point about the omniscience of our Lord. Now, this is a story that happened in 1998, August 1998. Over 100 children from SSC or Bal Vikas from UK went and performed in Prasanthi Nilayam in a lovely dance drama series called Sai Mahima. This was the part 3 of Sai Mahima. They've had 6, 5 in the immediate physical divine presence of Swami. So part 3, this group was led by our national SSC coordinator, Mrs. Karunesh Ratnasingham. You all must know her, anybody related or having anything to do with SSC. The most amazing person. She is like a mother to Bal Vikas in this country. So the 100 children performed in front of Swami. Swami was very happy with the performance. He came backstage, blessed everybody, gave gifts to every single person who was involved. That is, all the children were given gifts, clothes, the teachers, the people who assisted, everybody. Yours truly also got material for stitching. And Swami, even Vidyu was not there backstage. Swami actually asked me, where is your wife? And then he threw a lovely sari for her. Here, take this for her. And she hadn't been backstage. So that is the level of, attention to detail our Lord has. He gave everybody a gift. And then the next day, he suddenly called me to the veranda and said, tomorrow I will talk to your group. And then Swami went, I said, morning or afternoon, Swami, your cheeky mind, that Samshayatma, you want to be sort of pin him down. You hear all these stories about Swami sort of saying something and then it may not happen immediately. All those stupid, mad monkey mind questions. So I said, when, Swami? Tomorrow morning or afternoon? Swami said, not morning, tomorrow afternoon. Then Swami said, you all are a big group, because there were more than 300 people. There were 100 children, but remember, there were teachers, there were parents and helpers and everybody. So Swami said, I'll talk to them in the mandir, because the interview room is too small. And he said, they will give you a separate place, special place to sit. So we were all staying, as a group, were staying in one of the north blocks, North 7. I went running back to Amma, that is Karne's auntie, as she's known. I call her Amma. I went up to her and I said, Amma, Swami called me. She said, yes, I saw Swami calling you. What did Swami say? I said, Swami said he's going to talk to all of us tomorrow in the mandir, and Swami is going to give us a special place. So the loving lady that she is, her first thought was, oh, this is such a fabulous opportunity for the children to ask questions to Swami. And they can ask whatever they like. And they're not going to get a chance like this, because these are children who live in the UK. So she said, maybe we should ask them to ask Swami questions. Panic set forth. I started sweating. I said, Amma, these are children. They have no inhibitions. More important, these are children born and brought up in the United Kingdom. They have zero inhibitions. They will ask, you don't know what they are going to ask. I think it might be worthwhile finding out what they want to ask. So she said, yes, absolutely. Let's ask the children to write down the questions that they would like to ask Swami. And then maybe we will put those questions to Swami. So that announcement was made. The whole group was so thrilled and excited. And the children got themselves busy to write their questions. And then Amma and I sat through these questions, went through them. Some of them were so profound. One child had asked, Swami, what is the secret of creation? Another child had asked such a lovely question. He said, Swami, they say you're going to leave at the age of 96. Swami, I'll only be so old at that time. Please, Swami, can you not stay on forever? Then some were the kind of questions I was afraid of. One child wrote a question saying, Swami, I know you're God, but sometimes I have a few doubts. Can you give me some proof? Maybe a gold chain? And then Amma understood where my fears stemmed from. Anyway, there were loads of other questions. We'll come to some of them. So we decided that we were going to deal with these questions as well as we could on a human level. So 3 people were chosen for that, to answer these questions, the children and 3 of us. One is Mrs. Ratnasingham, Karnes Ratnasingham herself, who was our national SSC coordinator. The second was Dr. Shanti Parameswaran, who is a child psychiatrist and has been a veteran of Balvikas or SSC teaching in this country, and she still continues to teach. Wonderful person. And the third was yours truly. So all 3 of us were like the panel facing the questions. So then the questions started coming. One child, I'm just giving you a little sample. One child came out to this question, why are all avatars men? This was a girl, by the way, a 9-year-old girl. Why are all avatars men? And she did not look happy, I can tell you. So these 2 ladies, they are senior veteran Balvikas or SSC teachers. They are super knowledgeable and intelligent. And they are so intelligent that they passed the question on to me. They said, you answer this question. I sort of swallowed a few times. Jai Sai Ram, please help me out of this one, Swami. And then I said, the answer came forth. I said, when we say Ram, we always say Sita Ram. When we say Sham or Krishna, we say Radhe Sham. even when we say Sai Baba, it is Sa, divine, Ai, mother, Baba, father. So we always put the female form first when we are talking of the avatar. This girl was not satisfied with my answer. She had this classic expression of, you describe it nicely as a bulldog chewing a wasp. So here I was telling this child this, and she wasn't happy. So then I again sent this SOS to Swami, please say the right thing. And then I said, tell me something. Would you love Swami more if Swami was a woman? So the girl said, no. Then I said, do you love Swami less because he came as a man? That's when she finally smiled and she said, no. So that was one of the questions. Similarly, there was another question. This was from a senior Balvika student who said, she addressed it straight to me, by the way. She said, Uncle, in Bhagavad Gita, you teach us to accept happiness, sorrow, victory, defeat, profit, loss, heat, cold, all with equal mindedness. How is it practically possible to accept everything with equal mindedness? Again, the SOS went to Bhagawan, and the answer came as if I had prepared for this question all my life. I promise you I hadn't. The answer was, accept everything as a gift from God. Whatever it is, God knows best to give it, and it is for your own good. So the next day, we had our interview. We were all lined up to go inside the mandir. We sat inside. Swami came into the mandir and asked us, Swami shut the door, and then Swami asked this question. He said, what language do you want me to speak in? And of course, I was sitting in the fourth row, cheeky monkey that I am. I said, language of the heart, Swami. And Swami is so gracious and loving, he did not tell me off for that answer, the cheeky reply. He looked at somebody in the first row and told him, chup karke baith. And that poor man is saying, I didn't say anything. Why is he asking me to keep quiet? Subsequently, and I told him, well, he asked you to keep quiet. He didn't ask me to keep quiet, so I can continue talking. So anyway, then Swami started off saying, I really liked the program. It was excellent. The songs were appropriate. The dances were great. There's so much of hard work has gone into it. And then suddenly, by the way, we never gave those questions to Swami in a physical sense. Suddenly, Swami says, the teachers worked very hard. The parents worked very hard along with the children. And then he said suddenly, but the lady teachers worked harder. At this point of time, I was the bulldog, or all of us men teachers, chewing the wasp. We were all, And then suddenly Swami said, there are a lot of people here whose husbands and families have not come for this trip. And when they go back to UK, their husbands will have long faces. Swami described long faces. They would be taunting, their in-laws would be taunting them. But remember, whatever they say, don't reply, don't say anything. Think of the nice, happy times you had in Puttaparthi. Don't reply back. The next thing Swami started doing like this. And when Swami starts doing like that, something is getting materialized. Suddenly out comes a pair of diamond earrings. And from that, Swami plucked out a diamond ring as well. He called one of the teachers, a lady teacher, and gave it to her. Later, we found out that that lady's husband did not believe in Swami, and Swami was talking about her scenario. And then from this point, Swami started off about even in cases of avatars, you say Sita Ram. You say Sita first and then you say Ram. Radhe Sham, you say Radha first and then you say Sham. Even Sai Baba is Sa Ai Baba. So here I am scratching my head, having totally forgotten that, the source of that wisdom was the Lord himself. I said, oh my God, Swami is answering exactly the same answers. Then Swami went on to the question about, how do you accept everything with equal mindedness? And Swami narrated the famous story, which you all know, I will not repeat it, about the king and his minister. And the king on the festival of Sankranti was chopping some sugar cane and chopped off a bit of his finger. And it was bleeding. And of course, the minister said, this is for your own good. And so finally, the punchline is that accept everything as a gift from God. Like this, Swami answered all the questions, the difficult ones that the children had asked, in the same chronological order, giving the same answers, and without any of us having given those questions to Swami. And I told you the drunken, mad monkey mind that has been stung by a scorpion, as Swami Vivekananda put it. And our Swami also has repeated that. Drunken, mad monkey mind stung by the scorpion. That is there in front of you talking just now. I went back and I was wondering, how did Swami know all the questions in the same order? How did he answer? And he even gave those answers. This is my stupid mind. The next day, my wife and I were leaving back to Scotland, where we lived in those days. It was the 6th of August. And previously, Swami had asked me, when are you leaving? And I had answered on behalf of the group, because Swami asked me on behalf of the group. And I had answered saying, Swami, the group is leaving on the 8th of August. But we needed to get back on the 6th because I had to get back to work in Scotland. And so next morning, we were sitting, waiting to go in at that time near the Ganesha temple. Waiting for our queue to be called in. And I prayed intensely to Lord Ganesha, saying, today is my last day. This morning is my last day. This Swami is going to look at me. This Swami is going to give fast. Father Namaskar, Swami is. With this grace, we got this first gift. The next thing we know, a whole load of university staff came and sat in front of us. Getting to see Swami. It's not on mute. Can you hear me? Yeah, okay. You can. So, okay. Yeah, that was a little technical glitch, I guess. Science does fail. Yeah, okay. So, next thing you know, there was a little gap between the university staff and us people sitting in the darshan line. Swami comes straight up to me. I folded my hands and I said, Swami, we are leaving today. So he said, why? You said you were going on the 8th of August. I said, no, Swami, the group is going on the 8th of August. Vidyu and I are going back to Scotland today. So Swami said, you and your wife go in for an interview. And so we both went in. Swami came, and as you know, he would shut the door and then switch on the fan. He comes, switches on the fan, comes straight to me and says, you thought, no, today, you said today is the last darshan. Is Swami going to look at me? Is Swami going to give me Pada Namaskar? Is Swami going to speak to me? You thought that, no? See, our Lord is omniscient. He doesn't need a CCTV camera to tell him. He does not need anybody to report to him. He knows everything because he lives here within each one of us, within our hearts, as he has declared himself. Then this is about the omniscience. Now, I told about omnipotence, the omniscience. Of course, every story talks about his compassion as well. I shall talk about somebody else that I know quite well. This is an Algerian brother, a Sai brother of ours. He's Algerian. His name is Bashir. And this is a story that happened whilst we were in Glasgow, in Scotland. Bashir's mother lived in Algeria. They spoke a language called Berber. And, it's either Arabic or Berber. And Bashir's mother was visiting Scotland for the first time to her son's house. The son used to live in Ayr. And his mother suddenly sees, she's a very devout Muslim lady, wonderful person, devout lady, who did her namaz 5 times a day without fail. She saw suddenly these pictures of Swami in her son's house and said, "Who is this? What is this? It's not permitted to have images of people." And she said, "Haram, you should not do this." She told her son off. But she tried explaining to his mother what was happening. But she wasn't going to have any of it. Now, the next morning, the mother woke up first thing in the morning to do her morning namaz. It was probably 5 in the morning. And she did her morning namaz. She gets up. And then suddenly she sees on the landing of the staircase, whom does she see? The man in the picture, standing there. So, first thing was puzzlement. What is happening here? He is in the picture. He's supposed to be living in India. What is he doing here? At this point, she suddenly sees her late husband appearing on the same landing. And the next thing she knew, her husband merged into Swami. Swami, of course, smiled benevolently at her, blessed her, and Swami also went away. Bashir woke up, as most of us sons do, slightly later than the mother, and he finds his mother shaking like a leaf. And he said, "Mother, what happened? Are you all right?" So she said, he came. So he says, "Who came?" He. Who? The one in the picture, in your photos. He came. She says, "Mother, are you imagining things?" He says, "No, I'm telling you, I saw him standing there. And I saw your father as well, your late father. And then what happened? The father merged into him and he blessed me and he went away." So, believe it or not, Bashir brought this lovely lady dressed up in her traditional gear from Algeria to the Sai Center in Glasgow. All of us witnessed it who were there. And this lady takes hold of the mic as if she has been, on stage all her life. She was so confident. There was no nervousness or anxiety. She spoke in Berber, describing what had happened, and Bashir was translating. It was like interpreting. And then periodically Bashir would ask her a question and she'll answer. So here she was describing this whole incident. And then Bashir finally said, "Mother, who do you think he is now? You earlier said it was haram. Who do you think he is now?" And she went, "Muhammad." And then, after all this was over, there was a little silence. Then she took the mic again. And she said, "All these years I have lived in Algeria, worrying about my son, Bashir, that he does not have any family with him. But having come here and having seen all of you, I am happy and confident that he is amongst brothers. This is the benediction of a loving mother, the ethos and the atmosphere of a Sai center where we are all siblings with the divine parent. I still have a little time, and as I told you, I am addicted to telling stories. And talking about my Lord is probably the finest thing I can do. I'll talk about another person. This is an English gentleman called Len, whom I met in 1989. He retired from the British Army, and he's still alive. He retired from the British Army. He was in Northern Ireland, in Belfast. As you can imagine, this was in the 80s when there was still a lot of problems in Northern Ireland, a lot of violence, sectarian violence. And once he retired and he settled down there were death threats coming from the paramilitary. I won't mention the side. They were told that you belong to the British Army, we are going to bomb your house. So here he was, quite distraught, worried about his wife and his children, not so much about himself. And he went to church and he was praying intensely. He prayed intensely to Jesus. Suddenly, he is aware of a presence in the church. He was just by himself. It was not during a church service. He was by himself. He sees a presence and he suddenly looks, and there is this old Indian man dressed up in rags. No prizes for guessing who that is. This old Indian man had a very calming influence on him, with a hand raised, and blessed him and said, "Don't worry, I will take care of you and your family." Now, Len had never been to India, but as part of the British Army, he had been even posted in what was called Aden in those days. Aden is modern Yemen, where all the trouble is happening these days. He had been posted in Aden, and so he knew this was a holy man, a fakir from India. He describes subsequently seeing, alternatively, he used to see the old man, or there was this younger man with fuzzy hair and an orange robe. And this old man and the young man suddenly merged into one. Things sort of fell into place. Len moved from Belfast. It was as if there was a hand protecting and guiding. He moved to Manchester. Everything was settled. He doesn't know who this old man was. One day, he was going for a walk in this area called Longsight. And from the front door happened to be ajar. There was some music coming. It was not music that he was familiar with. This was bhajan going on. It was then the Manchester Sai Center. It was in Jairam Patil's house. And the door was open. Our tradition, when we go in to bhajans, we all remove our footwear, our shoes, our chappals and everything. And somebody must have left the door open. So through this open doorway, he could see a life-size picture of Swamis. So he decided to go in. And of course, nobody stopped him from coming in. He goes in at the end of the bhajan. He tells us, the hosts, they were very hospitable, lovely people. He says, "So, who's that man in the picture?" And he was told that this is Bhagawan Sri Sathya Sai Baba. To us, he is our God. And Len says, "He came to me in Belfast." And he'd by then seen a picture of Shirdi Baba. He said both of them. And then they came, merged into one. He did not know anything else. I don't even know their name, but they guided me and my family to come here. He subsequently came to Swami in 89. I was there with him in Kodaikanal. He then came to Vrindavan as well, and also to Puttaparthi. So our Lord is not limited to Prasanthi Nilayam, Brindavan. His abode is here within our hearts. He's listening to everything that we are saying. There is not one thing that he does not know. I'm very aware that we are running out of time. My wife tells me that we can carry on for a little bit longer. So I'm wondering what story to narrate. But basically, what I was trying to say was omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent, loving, and compassionate. These are the qualities. I know God is beyond qualities, but these are the attributes of the good Lord. And there he is showing us that I have, and that is why he is my God. As I said, a lot of people would say he's a holy man. Sometimes it gets me wound up because India is full of holy men. India is full of teachers. The world is full of teachers. There are so many gurus, the gurus who give you a mantra for some money in return, as Swami has said. But we got God himself as our guru. How very blessed we are. There is a beautiful kriti or composition of Saint Annamacharya in Telugu. Very, very wonderful thing that describes the situation. Yenta matramuna yevvaru telachina anta matrave neevu. As anybody conceives you according to their mental state, that is how you manifest yourself. As they comprehend you, yat bhavam tad bhavati. And he goes to an analogy of food, which I like, I love food as well, apart from loving my God. According to the batter, the pancake is going to be made. So if there's more batter, the pancake will be bigger. It's like saying that if you have your chapati, atta is bigger, then your chapati will be bigger sized. So like that, he goes on to say, the Vaishnavites call you Vishnu, the Shaivites call you Shiva, the Advaitins call you Parabrahma, the Kapalikas call you Adi Bhairava, the Shaktas call you Shakti. To me, you are my Lord, you are my beloved Lord. And this is our beloved Lord that we are talking about. Just on that vein, since I have a little more time, I will tell you one more story. This is again about somebody whom I know and who's quite a well-known figure. Those of you who are familiar with Tamil writing, he is a very famous writer called Ra Ganapati. Ra Ganapati is the compiler of the discourses and biographer of the senior Shankaracharya of Kanchi, Jagadguru Sri Chandrasekhara Saraswati Swamigal. We refer to him as Mahaswamigal, one of the most incredible luminaries who headed the Kanchi Shankara Mutt for the most of the 20th century. He lived for almost 100 years. And incredible scholar, most divine personality. So Ra Ganapati compiled all Mahaperiyava's discourses, and that book is called Deivathin Kural. Now, I know that Ra Ganapati also subsequently came to Swami, and he wrote a 2-volume book. In Tamil, it was called Swami, and in English, it was called Baba Sathya Sai. It would be worthwhile getting hold of those books if you don't have it. Even the English translation is almost poetic. Leave alone the Tamil, it is sheer poetry, what he writes about Swami. Exceedingly beautiful gift he has got. So I asked Ra Ganapati, tell me, sir, I have always known of you as a great follower of Kanchi Mahaperiyava. How come you came to Sathya Sai Baba? He laughed and he said, it was Kanchi Mahaperiyava who sent us to Sathya Sai Baba. So here I was totally stunned. said, please tell me the story. And he said, he was called Ganapati because he was born on Vinayaka Chaturthi day. And he came from a long line, a tradition of Shaktas, Devi worshippers. And for generations, they have been doing this Devi Upasana. And this man was supposed to carry it on, this Devi Upasana. Now, he was very stubborn that he will never get married. And this really worried the parents. They said, if this boy, he's our only child, if he doesn't get married, then how will this Upasana continue down generations? It's going to stop with him. And that is not right. This has been done by our ancestors, being done by us. If he doesn't carry on and does not get married and have children, how are we going to continue this tradition of Devi Upasana? So they went to Kanchi Mahaperiyava, who was their guru, and Mahaperiyava very sweetly said, I don't know the answer for that. I'm not able to give that answer for that. Sai Baba ta po, Puttaparthila. Go to Sai Baba in Puttaparthi. So that's how the elderly couple and Raganapati landed up in Puttaparthi. Sure enough, when they landed up, Swami called the parents in for an interview. Raganapati also was meant to go along. But Raganapati's thoughts were, oh, this Sai Baba, he's a big Mayavi. He might do some Maya Jalam on me and he might convince me to get married. Then I'll be suffering. I don't want to get married. I've decided I don't want to get married. I'm stubborn about it. I'm not going to get married. So he did not go inside the interview room. He instead looked down on the sand. So the parents are waiting in the veranda for the son to follow. He's not coming. Swami just turned around, looked and said, never mind, you come inside. And Swami took them for a private interview into the inner interview room. Swami tells them, I know why you have come. You were sent by Kanchi Mahaswami. And he said, you are worried that you have done Devi Upasana for generations. And because your son is not going to get married, that Upasana is going to not be fulfilled, to not reach fruition. And then Swami said, don't worry. He does not need to get married. Today, the generations of Upasana that you have done has reached fruition. And the Divine Lord gave them darshan inside the inner interview room as Devi, the form that they had worshipped for generations. The interview was over. The door opens. Swami lets people out. Raganapati is looking up sheepishly, worrying that his father would be furious. But instead, he sees the parents coming, beaming from ear to ear, absolutely floating out of the interview room in bliss. The father comes up to him and said, don't worry, you don't need to get married. So Raganapati said, what happened? And then they narrated their experience. It is subsequently that this gentleman decided to stay back and find out more Swami. And then he wrote that book, Swami, or Baba Satya Sai as it is in English, about Swami. I think I'll stop now. As I said, I can go on like the cat. Already Bhai described me with a smile. I can grin like the Cheshire cat. And of course, there is nothing better than this nectar of Swami's stories. Sai Ram.
Thank you, dear Mahesh Bhai. First of all, for changing my castrol face to historical fits of giggles. So thank you for that. It's been an amazing hour of gems. transporting us through time from 1943 to the present moment. How you've managed to retell so many wonderful stories based on Baba's compassion on the gardener, how lucky he must have felt. The omnipotence of Baba raising the body of Walter Cowan, although I'm not sure I want to retell the story of the cotton buds to my children, because I'm sure they will stuff those in my nose when I'm asleep. And going to omniscience of omniscience of the Lord, answering your questions at Sai Mahima. So thank you, Mahesh Bhai. It's been an absolute pleasure. It's been a privilege listening to you. So thank you so much. Just one announcement. For next weekend, there will be no Sai Karuna talk, as the whole weekend will be dedicated to online programs celebrating Guru Purnima. Those dates and times will be posted shortly. From us here at the Sathya Sai Organization of the United Kingdom, thank you for joining us. Sai Ram.